Welcome to Art's Place, conservative talk from a different view, from the Casablanca studio in Golden, Colorado. Hosted by Art Carlson. At 4'6", liberals fear him, and conservatives love him. He's definitely a giant among men. Now here's your host, Art Carlson.
Yeah, welcome to another episode of Art's Place, conservative talk from a different view. We've got a great show today. We're going to be talking about critical race theory, Stacey Abrams, the comedy works goes woke. We'll talk about all those, but let's bring up my co-host all the way from Muskogee, Oklahoma, the effervescent Lloyd Mendenhall.
Hey, Art.
Your voice went away. Can't hear you.
What? Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Huh. Couldn't. What's wrong? Delay.
Now you went away again.
No,
Are you
I'm
messing with me? Oh, boy.
I'm just screwing with you. What can I say? I'm a clown. Okay.
So how's the weather in your neighborhood?
It's hot and humid. Oh, my God. It's just ridiculous. The humidity is just unbelievable.
Nope.
We've had heat advisories out for like 4 days. We had a few thunderstorms the other night, but it's like, actually it's quite a bit of thunderstorms, but it's just, it heats up, gets humid, and then it breaks loose, and then it heats up.
Yeah.
It's just a never ending cycle here. So,
Well, here we've been getting ozone alerts almost every day for the last 2 or 3 weeks. Yep.
Our biggest thing is the humidity raises our heat index has been in the hundreds for, I don't know, 3 or 4 days now.
Wow.
And it's just, man, we went out Friday and the air was so thick you just hardly couldn't breathe. It was just unbelievable. So,
are you getting any breeze out there?
Oh yeah, we're getting breeze, we're getting wind, but it ain't helping. All it's doing is like standing inside a blast furnace, just hot air blowing, hot, wet air blowing around. Yeah, it's just like, anyways. It's life in Oklahoma.
I'm thinking about moving to Florida.
They got a high humidity there too.
Yep.
I know when my sister lived there years ago, she said that, why does that keep going off? Anyways, she said that she could literally see the water running down the walls, from the humidity. So, she was in Sebring, so I'm not sure which side of the coast that's on, but still.
It's inland.
Inland? Okay. So.
Yeah. From what I hear, it's not so bad when you're on the coast because you got that breeze, constant breeze.
Yeah, she, I forgot what the name of the lake was that they Waxahachie or some lake over there. Anyways, that's where the carnivals go to winter.
Right.
Is in Sebring. So she was in the carnival business for a while, and with her third and her fourth ex-husband.
Oh.
Yeah. Same guy, but, she had to make the mistake twice.
Okay. Kind of a do-over. Okay.
A do-over, yeah. And they remained friends until she passed, so they found out they were better friends than they were husband and wife.
Right.
But anyways.
Alrighty, so let's get going here. Uh, so let's talk about critical race theory. That's kind of been the hot topic lately, especially in schools. And what I'm
Yeah.
worried about is, I live in Section 8. What happens if that starts seeping into the housing authorities where they decide to, you know what, if you're black, gay, disabled, then you get the lowest rent. But if you're a white, disabled working person, we're going to jack your rent up.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I have white privilege.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We all know how well that works, right?
Yep.
There's I forgot what the guy's name is. I'm gonna have to. Have you seen the video called Snowflake?
Oh, I've seen that around
Yeah.
Yeah.
On
I haven't
Facebook and
watched
stuff.
it,
Yeah.
but
You need to watch it.
okay.
It's rap. I'm not gonna. I'm not into rap, but this guy. Here's the thing. We're here having all this stuff about critical race theory and how bad the whites are and all this crap they're trying to reteach. But yet, I like to watch reaction videos. I don't know why, but I do. And this guy that does this, he looks to be white, but he's a rapper, and he's really good. And uh, he and his girlfriend do all these videos on their own. I mean, but it's very, very well produced. And uh, the there's a good point. What is critical race theory? Let's explain that before I go any further talking about what
All
I'm
right.
talking about.
Basically, what it is in schools, they're teaching little kids that if you're a minority, that you're never going to get, uh, ahead, and white people are always going to hold you down, and white people are the oppressors, and black people will never get ahead. Am I in the ballpark, Lloyd?
Pretty much, yeah. It's teaching about white privilege. It's teaching that it's trying to change history. It's trying to change. They're going back all the way to the beginning of our country, saying that the United States was founded on racist principles, and that the drafters of the Declaration and the Constitution were racist because many of them were slave owners. It's that the nation was founded on lies, where it says all men are created equal. Well, that only includes white men. That's what they're teaching, and now they're trying to explain to the white students how they need to be less white and quit using their privilege to an advantage so that the blacks can't slip of the tongue there. Freudian slip. Anyway, so the blacks can advance further in life. In other words, white folks get out of the way, let the black folks take over.
Well,
And they're
wait a
trying to.
minute. Didn't we just have a president that was black?
Well, here's the problem. He used his half white privilege to get him there. That's what they're going to be saying. I
Oh,
guarantee you. In another 15 years, if this continues, and critical race theory, they're even going so far as to mixing socialism in with it. And there's a lot of states. There's a lot of states that are starting to. There's a backlash. Yeah, it's what uh, Chris was starting to write. Chris was starting to write that up. There's just that's just what he was going to say. Yeah, you're right. we did have a black president, but that doesn't seem to matter. Uh, this is, and it's been something that's been,
And
I don't know.
doesn't
It's
Chicago have a black mayor?
Muskogee has a black mayor,
Hmm.
and I can tell you right now. All right, Muskogee has a black mayor currently, and he's doing all right. I got to admit, some of the roads are finally getting repaired, so I don't know if he actually has anything to do with that or not, because we have a city manager system rather than a mayoral. Uh, so he's just
Yes.
another seat on the city council.
Right.
And but 30 years ago, 40 years ago, or 35 years ago, there was we had a motor home. We had a guy have to come over. He came over and changed one of our tires out for us from one of the places that that's what they do, tire stuff. And he was talking about race relations, and well, yeah, they seem to ignore those, Chris. Uh,
Yeah.
but anyways, 35 years ago, this guy was a member of the Klan here in Muskogee, and they were active. I didn't know it. I've always thought the Klan was evil. You know, I've always thought that. You know, but uh, that was 35 years ago, 37 years ago, maybe. And now we've got a black mayor. Okay, so it took 37 years to get it there. But there hasn't been enough of a. Well, the other problem we had in Muskogee is we had a good old boy system from the judges on down. This is the South. And all of those good old boys were Democrats. Every single one of them.
Yep.
Fat, white, rich Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
And but they say it's the Republic. Now that we have more Republicans around, for some reason we have a black mayor. It doesn't make sense, but we do.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You know?
And Denver has a black mayor. Yep.
Yeah,
Mayor
it's
Hancock.
yeah. But this is the problem with critical race theory. They're teaching a false narrative, false history.
That's true. Mm-hmm.
And going back to what I was talking about, this video, snowflakes, and the guy talks about all the different things. But as I said, I like to watch the reaction video. So I thought there's a lot of people that you'll see. They're black couples or black guys reacting to videos, and sometimes it's music from my era that they hadn't heard. And it's like, oh wow, this is good. And overwhelmingly, every one of them I've watched, and I probably watched 10 of them over the weekend. They all agreed with everything he said. How, it starts out the first two lines, at least the first one says, "We lie to the government, we go to prison. They lie to us, they're called a politician."
Yep.
And it's just, and I found from one of them, I can't remember which one it was, but one of the guys, he has this gal come in, they're talking about pronouns and or changing pronouns and stuff.
Yep.
The person that is there is a very pretty person. They're transgender.
Ooh.
And very well known transgender. It's not the former gold medalist, but
Oh, RuPaul?
no, it's not RuPaul. A lot younger. This is a younger person, and yet this trans is conservative. And it's or
So
is
it's Bruce
at least
Jenner,
helping.
or I mean
Yeah.
Caitlyn Jenner.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We're hearing all this crap in the news from CNN and CBS, ABC, NBC, PMS, NBC, and DNC, NBC.
Yep.
Or
New York Times, Los
New York
Angeles Times.
and it's coming from a small group of people. But when you start looking at the overall reaction to some of these videos that are out there, you're seeing that there's a lot more people in the black community that believe like us than believe like
Hmm.
this crap we're hearing on TV and in the news and stuff. But it's a video worth watching, and I'll see if I can find the link here in a little bit, and
Yeah,
I'll put it
I'll
up in the
check it
chat.
out.
Yeah,
Hmm.
but yeah, you're right. It can bleed over into eventually, short white people are going to be forced
Yep.
out of their housing. I mean, it's the
Hmm.
same. It's the anti-apartheid reaction you got in South Africa after apartheid. You Those people were thrown out of their homes because they were white. You know,
Right.
some of
Right.
them they couldn't care less one way or the other. They were just that's been their family home for 6 generations. It wasn't their fault,
Hmm.
but yet they lost their place, and that's what's going to happen with this critical race theory if it's allowed to continue. But a lot of states are stepping in and saying, "Not in my state."
That's good. That's good.
Yeah,
Because I know previous administration, Obama administration, they were trying to get critical race theory into government, you know, bureaucracy. Like
yeah,
the State Department,
right, right,
all and things like that.
yeah. And the problem is this is spreading. I mean, you're right. They're still trying to. I think they were trying to. What I read a week or two ago that they were talking about. They were going to use the critical race theory or the too much whiteness theory in the State Department and how they deal with different countries. If a country is not supporting their minorities, well, or the minorities aren't allowed to be in charge. And here's the funny thing: you've got minority groups, okay, here in the United States. Part of the reason we went into Iraq was because it was being controlled under a minority government which was the uh,
The Ba'ath Party.
Sunnis. Well, under yeah, but it was the Sunnis who were the
Yeah.
minorities inside of Iraq, and we went in there to give the majority, the Shiites, the power to run their own nation. You know,
Right.
and yet here in our country, we're just we're trying to do the same thing. We're trying to let the minority groups run the country, and the majority groups. Uh, and it doesn't matter whether you're talking religious, whether you're talking race, gender, or politics. Political
Hmm.
affiliation. We're letting a minority group dictate our history. You know, our uh, our our agendas, our way of living. And when I watch on YouTube and I start reading stuff, I see so many blacks that are fed up with what the Democrats are doing, with the cancel culture, with the this whole look at all the rich black actors and football players. Yeah, you're right. Uh, and those are just like, and this started really picking up a head of steam under uh, Kaepernick or whatever his name was. Uh, you know, he wasn't even a good football player, but he was, yay, we're black
Down
power,
with
all
the
that stuff.
struggle, man.
Yeah, yeah. He didn't look to be struggling. I think he had a pretty nice house. You know,
Hmm.
uh, and
And he was adopted, and he had white parents.
yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
I don't see how. I would say if anybody had white privilege, that was a man who did.
Yep. Colin
You know,
Kaepernick. Yep.
yeah. And yet
Hmm.
he was trying to stand up and be the representative for the struggle.
Right.
You know, but
Then it ended up driving thousands, if not millions, of people away from watching the NFL.
Yeah.
And then it started to spread into other sports. Just about every sport where this got a foothold in, their ratings plummet.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It's and it started there, and then it started going into college football, and then into high school football, and then all the way down to little
Pee-wee.
league type pee-wee football. Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And football is a game. I don't care how much you're paid, whether you call yourself a professional. It's a friggin' game.
Mm-hmm.
If you're good, you get to play professionally.
Mm-hmm.
Just like the guys who play Call of Duty on their Xboxes. If they're good, they get to compete in national
Online.
or international
Stream.
online
Mm-hmm.
tournaments in which they can make hundreds of thousands of dollars and get sponsored and all of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. It's still a friggin' game,
Mm-hmm.
and just like we got a drone racing league. There's racing leagues. It's still, if you look at it from and this will insult a lot of drone people, but it's still a friggin' toy. The only difference between a man and boy is the cost of their toys. It's just a more expensive toy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it can be used for professional things, but it still comes down to, I mean, granted, you get one of those big that holds a big giant movie cameras. Those obviously aren't toys, but it comes out of an idea. Because
Mm-hmm.
when this started hitting and before it became a profession, it was being sold as a toy. Then they took those toys and upgraded them into something professional,
Mm.
But
Yep.
it still comes down to it started out as a toy. Chris says now he's mad. Yeah, that's okay.
Mm.
And that's a
You come to the right place,
over-dramatization.
Chris.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's an over dramatization or oversimplification, but that's what this all comes back to. Football is a game. Yeah, even NASCAR. And
Yeah.
I'll never forget the guy that were supposedly the Hangsman noose was put on his garage door.
Yeah, I
and
remember
the
that.
NASCAR all got back there and crawled behind him, kissing his ass, his backside. Yeah, I'm sorry, they didn't crawl. They marched behind him, showing him. They were walking behind him, kissing his butt.
Yep.
And then it turns out that was just the pull to pull down his door. What a friggin' idiot.
The garage door.
That just shows how gullible people
Mhm.
or how easily they want to. Chris says that's when he quit.
Yep.
Quit watching. Yeah.
Yep.
Because
That's why I don't watch pro football anymore. I just got tired of it.
Yeah.
Same
I'm
with-
lucky.
I stopped watching pro basketball years ago. And here's the deal. It started here in Denver when this one player, Mahmoud Abdul Rauf, a.k.a. Chris Jackson,
Yes.
who converted to Islam, he decided he wasn't going to stand for the national anthem. And not long after that, he got traded away. And his career just kind of floundered, and I think he played a few more years, and he finally retired. He could have been a really good player, but somebody got a hold of him and screwed up his mind.
Yep.
And got him in a place that wasn't conducive to sports. So that's what, and plus, a lot of the new players that were coming in, they're all thugs. They're gang members who happen to be good at basketball.
Right.
And I
It,
said, you know what? I'm not going to watch this crap anymore.
well, there was a time where you had a lot of this. This was back in the probably going back to the 40s, all the way into the 50s and 60s. But you had a lot of people that were, joining gangs of some sort or another, and some neighborhood person would look at them and say, "Hey, I'm running a gym over here. Instead of you getting a gang fight, why don't you come over here and do some boxing?"
There
You
you
know,
go.
or we're doing some basketball over here. Why don't you come over? I noticed you like to uh, shoot the hoops a little bit. Come over here and let's put that energy into something positive. And so you did get a lot of thugs that were coming in. Let's see. Oops, I dropped my M&Ms. But
Good to see
you
you,
had a,
Mike.
huh? Oh, it's Mike B. Yeah.
Yep.
I just saw what you, yeah. I don't have my glasses on, so I didn't look at the name when you popped it up, but good to
Hmm.
see you, Mike. But yeah, it's, you had a lot of that, but that was done for positive, uh,
Right.
neighborhood. And so you did get a lot of the thugs in, but most of them turned out pretty good. But then you look at, like boxing, especially, that's where I started out with. You had Muhammad Ali, who converted to Islam, Cassius Clay, who started out as a young punk.
Mm-hmm.
But Muhammad Ali was more than just a boxer. He was an entertainer. He knew how to play, he knew how to do the mic thing. Then you get Mike Tyson. That guy was a
Yeah.
thug. And his original trainer was was it Angelo Dundee? Was that his name?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think you're right.
Yeah. He could keep Mike focused, keep
Right.
that energy focused. But once you got Don King got involved and stuff, it was just
Yeah.
he was just a thug, you know. And
Hmm.
he reverted back because he didn't. Of course, Angelo Dundee died. That didn't help out either. Right at the
That's
peak of his career. But
that's true.
still, you had these neighborhoods that would take their people that were having problems and get them focused on something positive,
Right.
you know.
Like
But
sports
like sports
or music.
or music, yeah,
Yeah.
or
Mhm.
acting, you know.
Yep.
Uh, Look at
That's true.
what's his name? Is it Marion Morrison? I think was his name. He
Uh-huh.
was a kid. He walked back and forth past this fire station. He had a dog that was named Duke, and eventually somebody they saw him in the neighborhood. He went on to play. They got him into football. He went on to play high school football, and then was eventually discovered and went on to become John Wayne.
Oh, yeah, yeah, that's right. That's
But he's
Marion Michael Morrison.
Marion Michael Morrison. I couldn't remember his middle
Yep.
name, but I knew it was Marion
Hmm.
Morrison. But he started out, learning about toughening up and
Hmm.
from his neighborhood. They saw him. He was kind of let's get this kid focused. And, of course, he picked up the nickname Duke because he was always with his dog, Duke.
Right.
He's
And plus, he started out as a stuntman,
stuntman. Yeah. Yeah.
and the guy that he was doing stunts
Does
for
for.
wasn't feeling well,
So
so
he
they
took his
said, "Hey,
place.
would you like to fill in?"
Yeah.
And that's what started his career.
But, he could have gone a different direction when he was a kid if somebody hadn't taken him under their wings a little bit and said, hey, let's, and they ended
Right.
up in high school football and college football, if I'm not mistaken.
Hmm.
Uh, and that kind of got him going down that road towards
Hmm.
what eventually became one of the highest paid worst actors in the world. Don't get me wrong.
Well, look
I
at
enjoy John Wayne
Mark
movies.
Harmon. He
Yeah,
was a quarterback for UCLA.
right. Right.
and he studied. He got into acting while he was at UCLA,
Yeah.
and now he's a star of NCIS.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot that started out that way, but I always look at it. But now, as you said, we got these thugs coming into sports, and they're not wanting to. They're wanting to still continue with their same attitudes, their same lifestyle, thinking that everybody
Right.
owes them something, and use that as a platform to push their thug life. You know,
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
even
And
even in the days of Al Capone and stuff, they at least had some sort of code of honor. You know, these gangs nowadays, there's very little code of honor.
oh yeah.
You know,
Yep.
there is none.
Yep.
I mean, there's
Alrighty, so let's wind into the Comedy Works here in Denver. I think they're going to change their name to Comedy Woke because the owner, Comedy Works Productions, has decided they have booked Stacey Abrams to perform at the Paramount Theater here in Denver in October. And for those of you who don't know who she is, she's the racist, American hating black woman who ran for governor of Georgia, who still goes around claiming she won.
yeah,
And and to top that off, if you haven't noticed lately, there have been ads with Stacey Abrams on YouTube. Somebody Steve Carpenter was a panelist on my other show last night.
right.
Told me that when he was getting on to my show, there was an ad by Stacey Abrams who's going around telling everybody that Republicans are trying to suppress the vote with their voting bills in the different states,
Yeah,
and that just hacked me off. So I got a hold of YouTube. You know, went to their contact thingy tab, whatever, and thanks, Mike. My other show. You haven't.
yeah.
Anyway, getting back, I said, why are you allowing this racist woman to have an ad on my channel and other channels spreading false information?
I was watching it. Yeah, yeah. I know. And here's the thing: I was reading what Chris Biden's still claiming that he won too. Yeah. Uh, we just celebrated the 100th anniversary of. Let's see, for 30
Oh,
years.
the massacre, the Tulsa.
For 30 years, it was a Tulsa race riot.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And probably in about the last 10 years, actually for 90 years, it was a Tulsa race riot. In the last 5, maybe even 95 years, the last 5 years, it's the Tulsa massacre. You know, and they're still, they keep saying there was hundreds of thousands, or thousands of people murdered in that, and they just dug up another mass grave, had 20 people in it.
Right.
So, and they're trying, but Stacey Abrams was supposed to come speak to that. At that, we did have Joe Biden come speak.
Right, I remember that.
Yeah,
Yep.
but they canceled they finally canceled the main because they were supposed, on the weekend it was supposed to happen. They had the Ironman competition. They had, I forgot what else. They had they had the senior PGA championship here, and the Ironman Championship was being run here, and uh, they had this Tulsa, this commemoration of the Tulsa race riot, because that's what it was. It
Right.
was a race riot, and but now it's called a massacre, and it probably was, but uh, it's anyway. She was supposed to come, but they had to cancel the main celebration and reschedule
Right.
because certain people there couldn't agree on when they would speak or whether they would have the proper forum to speak. And it was Stacey Abrams. So that got canceled. She didn't show up, and the world is right in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They did have, because they've opened up a really good museum. You know, it's. I think you can go online and do an online tour of it too. And but the numbers have been highly inflated. Uh, I knew somebody who actually was. He was like, he's dead now. He's one of Judy's former boss, and he was like 5 years old, and he's riding with his dad in the wagon. They were taking something to market up there in Tulsa, probably some cattle or something. They had them in a wagon, and they got almost there, and a bunch of people started leaving, and they said, "You need to turn around and go back. You don't want to be there. There's a mass riot going on." And
Mm-hmm.
you know, that's that. To be honest with you, that was the first time we'd ever heard about it. Judy didn't even know about it. She grew up in Tulsa, not far from what's called the Greenwood District, which this all happened at. So it's there, and now they're trying to. They what people don't understand is they paid reparation to those families. About 15 years ago, the city of Tulsa paid reparation to the
Right.
survivors and or the descendants of that.
Right.
But now they're wanting reparation again. Like all blackmailers, they come back for more. You
Mm-hmm.
know. And there's one person I think that's left alive, and she's 105,
Right.
And I there's been pictures of her on the internet and stuff, and she was just 5 years old. She wasn't involved in it. She I'm not sure she even remembers,
Yeah.
but people are people with their agenda are manipulating it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's sad. I think it's sad what happens to Joe Biden because he's obviously a man out of touch with reality for the most part, and yet
Mm-hmm.
he's being handheld and walked around like a little 2-year old, and I think it's degrading that sometimes the way.
Right.
I don't agree with his politics. I didn't agree with his politics ever, but as a senior, I don't think he should be. You know, I think they've done him a great disservice. You know, and his legacy is going to go down as the biggest joke since Jimmy Carter.
Yep. That's true. Well, he
But
could be part of the triumvirate. He could be Jimmy Carter, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, the three
yeah,
worst presidents we've had in the 20th and 21st century.
I'd say he's probably they're probably the worst three presidents we've ever had. Period. You know,
Mm-hmm.
since the creation of this country. Even even Ulysses S. Grant, who was drunk most of the time, did a better job than these guys are doing. You
Yep.
know, Andrew Johnson, who got impeached, was a better president.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And see, and there again, there was his only thing was is he was trying to do what President Lincoln had wanted done, and these carpetbaggers, these uh, Democrats were going down south trying to, they were trying to they were trying to take advantage of the situation after the defeat of the South,
Mm-hmm.
and he was trying to stop that, and that's why they tried to impeach him, you know,
Right.
you know. So, anyways,
Now, how would you describe the Greenwood section of Tulsa? Like a middle class, upper class? I mean, was it
no,
a nice
it
neighborhood?
was. It was 100 years ago. It was actually, it's just what it was. It was full of very wealthy to do black people. They had thriving businesses. They were all uh, living successfully, you know, and they called it Little Wall Street or Black Wall Street for a reason. Very successful. And then that happened, and it was basically like any other, you know, slum or ghetto
Right.
after they got through with it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it was set off by one stupid person, you know.
Oh.
Uh, uh, there was a black elevator operator,
Uh-huh.
and something happened, and I don't know, this white woman came in, and it got crowded in the elevator. He accidentally got bumped into her and touched her. Some say touched her breast, some say just touched her
Ooh.
shoulder. She went running and screaming and said he raped her. You know,
Uh,
you go eat toffee on this show. Also, you would have more peeps in here. That's true too. Yeah,
well,
but
that might be something I might do down the road.
down the road, yeah, yeah, yeah. But anyways, and it turns out that he didn't do anything wrong, and she
Right.
overreacted, and she came out. There was actually a news article that in the paper the day after it started, uh, the day after telling exactly what happened, actually early on in, but then that was removed. It was taken out, and a whole different dialogue was put in there, and
Wow.
which was justifying why they did. There was no justification for burning down a part of the city and killing all those people. What they don't talk about is there was whites that were killed there too. There were white people killed in this. That's why it was a race riot. White and black. It wasn't a massacre. There were white people killed, but they're not talking about that.
Mm-hmm.
And they're only talking about the people that were killed and their businesses burned.
Right.
And it was a tragedy. It was a terrible thing that happened. And it doesn't, this kind of stuff I don't condone or support, but I think the rhetoric going on around it is, but it was a very nice neighborhood. And it became, I mean, Judy grew up. Well, she didn't grow up there. She lived there and eventually, went to high school in that area, and uh, her folks lived in that area until probably the last 10 years, 15 years of their life, and then they
Right.
moved up. They sold that place, but they lived over in that area, and we used to go. It was a nice neighborhood in that area,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been down to the Greenwood district a few times. It's nice. It's got some nice buildings there, and but it's like anything. And here's the thing: we don't have the race relation problems that a lot of those cities do. You know, uh, and if we do, it's usually caused by outside instigators.
Right.
It's
Mm-hmm.
almost always caused by somebody who's not originally from the area or who's just coming in to support a cause.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, and so, but yeah, and like I said, that's a an area but yeah, Stacey Abrams was supposed to come to getting back around to what we started. She was supposed to come speak, but they couldn't meet her demands, so they just canceled
Right.
it. They said we'll
She
reschedule
wanted to
it.
be the top
Yeah, she
dog,
wanted to
so
be
to
the top
speak.
dog there, and there were other people coming in,
Mm-hmm.
and so they just canceled it and rescheduled
She
it
said,
later.
that ain't gonna work.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yep.
but
So what else is going on in the political realm? We got Biden's over in Europe for the G what 8-7.
it's the G7 plus Biden.
Oh, okay.
G7. It well, actually, I've heard them call it the G7 or the G8, whatever it is. But like one of the things I heard talk about was they uh, uh, they were talking about when Trump went there, it was the G6 plus Trump or G6 against Trump. Now it's they're all holding hands and singing kumbaya and having s'mores by the campfire and uh,
That's because they know that we got a weak president that they
absolutely.
could walk all over, where
Yeah.
Trump was not going to have any of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I agree with you, Chris. I do too. I
Yep,
really
I
miss
do
Trump
too.
too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah. Yeah.
So, now what's going on in Asia with China? China is talking about they want to have control over, the Pacific area.
Yeah.
And they're really riling up a lot of people. They got Australia pissed off.
Oh,
Japan is like really worried. Taiwan, uh, they could invade Taiwan and take over Taiwan, just like they did with Hong Kong.
yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and this is the thing. Hong Kong should have never been given back to China.
Yeah.
You know, and again, I blame a lot of our world problems on Queen Victoria.
Mm.
She grieved for so long over Prince Albert that she let her her empire fall around her.
Yeah.
She could really care less, you know. And then her son, he just didn't have it in him to uh, be what his mother was, And then Queen Elizabeth, by the time she gets it all, it's uh, it's all been frittered away,
Yeah. All the
and
colonies are gone.
all the
Yep.
colonies were gone, all the
Mm-hmm.
you know uh, every one of the Commonwealth members were completely independent, and these colonies that they lost, I mean, the Middle East, Hong Kong was the last of their really big colonies, and turning it over like that
Mm-hmm.
was, I think, was a mistake. It was the only
Mm-hmm.
thing that was helping keep China, communist China, in check, because you
Mm-hmm.
had Hong Kong, which was independent of communist China, and
Right.
they what we did or what they did is they turned over a very profitable province to China. And then China played the game long enough until they started seeing the profits really rolling in, and then once they got their foothold in there, now they're
Mm-hmm.
cracking down on Hong Kong,
Yep.
you know, because even though I said, oh yeah, they're going to get to stay independent and they're still going to be blah 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 blah, they're communists. They're going to do what they want to do. They
Mm-hmm.
make the rules, and
Well, and the only way we're going to be able to stand up to China is if enough countries get together, like Japan, Australia, and some of our European allies and stand up to China and say, no, you're not going to take over territory in the South China Sea. No, we're not going to allow you to make man-made islands and call them ports there.
Right. Yeah. And this is the problem. We don't have anybody in our allies that are really standing up,
Mm-hmm.
because like the United States is becoming, they've been infiltrated by the socialist, you know. I think Australia is probably the most, except for Victoria, and I think a lot of people are hoping Victoria will actually secede from the country
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because they have no use for Victoria. It has gone socialist, but the rest of the country has a very conservative point of view, and they're the ones standing up against China right now. We're not even backing them because we have a president that has zero spine. Yeah,
Well, plus he's pretty much owned by China.
yeah. This thing has more of a backbone than Biden
Yeah.
does,
Mm-hmm.
and probably makes more sense. But he has more of a backbone than Biden does,
Mm-hmm.
and that's
And
sad.
plus, the other thing we're in a pickle in is because we've got China is now making important stuff that we need. Like, did you know China makes our transformers for our electrical grid?
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah,
And they also make much of our antibiotics. So,
yeah,
what we need to do is we need to start divesting in China. Start
yeah.
making some of those critical components here in this country or in another country, like
I've
maybe
been saying that.
Europe or South
I've been
America
saying that
or
for the last 10
Australia,
years.
even.
You know, we've got this idea that we as Americans have become so complacent. And, it's just easier to throw something away because, hey, chips in, this stuff, uh, they're a dime a dozen because they come from China. I can remember a time when you got you got a toy or something. If it said made in Japan, it wasn't that
It,
good a quality. But if it said made in China, it was crap. Actually, it didn't say made in China. It said made in Taiwan because
right.
we didn't buy stuff from China back then.
Mm-hmm.
We bought from Taiwan or Japan for our imports.
Right.
And, you know, now the Japanese toys are better quality, are it turns out they're still around. A lot of the Chinese import stuff that we finally started getting Chinese imports, uh, is crap. And I can't remember the last time I've seen anything made from Taiwan. You know, and because we don't support those countries like we used to. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
we could do better, but when you've got a group of people that think you need to be paid $15 an hour to flip hamburgers, they don't even flip them anymore. They're already cooked and frozen. All they do is put them in a microwave. It
Or
doesn't
they throw them on a skillet and they've got a machine that comes over and
over and yeah.
flips them over.
Well, you go to McDonald's, those are all microwave burgers now. They're
Oh?
they haven't. McDonald's hasn't. The only thing they cook fresh is their French fries.
Right.
You know, and even those are pre-cooked.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah, they give
process
them in these big bags
big
and
bags.
they
Yeah,
just dump them in the fryer in
yeah.
those
And
baskets.
well, it's
Yep.
because the secret to making them taste so well is, first off, you get the potatoes, you slice them, then you soak them for like an hour in sugar water.
Oh?
Then you drain them, you rinse them, you put them in, and you do a
Hey, Jerry.
hello, Jerry. Uh, you put them in and you quick fry them just for slightly, just for just a little bit. You take them out, you dry them off, you freeze them, and then when you're ready to cook them, you drop them in the fryer to finish them. That's how McDonald's fries are made. But they do
Oh,
most of that back at a processing plant.
right.
Those kids wanting $15 an hour, or those people that have decided that becoming the manager of McDonald's is a career choice, that's what they're going to. Now, granted, there was a time where there weren't jobs available for everybody. Now
Mm.
there's plenty, uh, but or there was until all of the crap from Biden starts hitting, and then
Yeah, the
our economy's going
helicopter
to.
money.
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah,
we'll pay you
exactly.
more to stay home.
Yeah,
There you
well,
go. Now
you
these
know,
companies, they can't get enough
right?
people to come in and work. They're starting to pay bonuses to people if they come to work.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Matter of fact, they've got a thing going on here that if you work for 6 months, you get a bonus from the state. They're going to use that money to pay people a bonus, but you have to be employed for 6 months before you're going to get it.
Same
You
here
know?
in Colorado.
Yeah, yeah. And
But the thing about Colorado is we're still giving people that extra $300 a week.
not in Oklahoma.
And it's like,
Matter of fact, we stopped. We stopped. We've gotten rid of all the federal emergency money that was sent out here. We've discontinued that, and we're still surviving.
yep,
And uh, but we tend to be conservative here. We tend to believe in hard work. We have a different set of ethics in Oklahoma that they do in a lot of the country. I'm not
right.
gonna say in the more liberal states,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And
Yep.
speaking of that, we had our first transgender Muslim person of different orientation elected into our state house,
Right.
and haven't heard a word from them. Haven't heard a word about them. They've not been in the news. They have been of
Huh.
nothing, you know.
Interesting.
So
Hmm.
it just, you know, uh, that was it, so the I what I thought was the beginning of wokeness here in Oklahoma. Apparently, if this person who identifies herself as a non-binary, I think that was the end of the conversation. Once you say, "Well, you identify as a non-binary," we're just not going to identify you as a person at all. We're just not even going to talk about you in a
Yeah.
conversation. They don't want to be identified as human. Fine,
Hmm.
we just won't talk
Well,
about you.
we've got a state representative from Arvada here that's a tranny. And she's originally from New York. And her original name was Brian.
Brian.
Now she's Brittany. And
Speaking of, one of the best, I just saw this. I saw two different stories about the same thing. But back in the 70s, 73 to 78, somewhere in that time period, uh, during the oil shortage, uh, people were trying to come up with new cars that would more economical. And there was a particular car that was a three-wheel car. But the third wheel was in the back, and it
right,
had a very stabilized. It was called the Dale, Dale,
right.
and it had
Is that the one where the door was in the front
no,
that
no,
opened
no, no,
out?
no, no,
Oh,
no, 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 no. It opened like it was a two-seater, opened up like a regular car. It
Oh,
just
okay.
the front end looked like a regular car, but then it went into a boat tail, sort of,
I see.
and the third wheel was in the back. Used a motorcycle engine,
Right.
and it was a car ahead of its time, sort of.
Mm.
But it was highly promoted by a woman who she was the promoter of it. She ended up finally serving prison because it was a scam. The
Oh,
car was actually built, but there was this guy Dale,
Earnhardt.
yeah, something like that, whoever, you know, Dale Bob. I don't know what his name was.
Oh,
His first name was Dale, and that's why it's called the Dale. He designed this and came up with it, and he got it licensed, in his state. It's out in California, and so it was great, and then this uh, Beretta or whatever her name was, she comes along and says, "Hey, I could sell this," and she sold shares and she sold, they did a lot of promotion and all of that stuff. But here's the thing, she says she was a widowed mother of five. Her husband had been killed in Vietnam, and she had pulled herself up by the bootstraps. Okay, maybe you need to take a hit of your huffer there, or a drink. Yeah, go ahead. And but anyways, the interesting thing about this uh, uh, is this widowed mother of five whose husband was killed in Vietnam. Turns out her husband was never killed in Vietnam because she was never married. Well, she was never married to a man.
oh my.
She was a man married to a woman at one time, but then she had a sex change. And one of the most successful con artists there ever was, well, was up to a point.
Right.
Yeah, but uh, I'm watching the chat down there. I'm cracking up. But Mike says nobody. Well, hello, Mike. How are you? I want you to know that we are listening to what you say in the chat. We're paying attention, and this is just for you. Hi, Mike. It's just nobody ever talks to him, so
Huh.
I wanted to let him know that yes, we do. Uh,
Mm.
anyways, uh,
Well, there was another car company that did sort of a similar thing where they were selling like ashtrays and shares in the company, and that turned out to be the Tucker.
yeah, yeah,
And they actually built some cars. I think they built 50 of them, but two of them were destroyed in
yeah,
tests.
yeah. Well, she went so far as to say that she actually got in the car and drove the car against a wall at 30 miles an hour. It had NASA certified resin body that kept it from being damaged. Well, they only had one actual working car. There was three of them built. One of them had a lawnmower engine in it. One of them was empty. It was the one on display the most time. And then there was the original one. And it did not get driven against a wall. But it was just, this was the 1970s. And this was probably it probably shocked the consciousness of America back then that this person was transgender, you know. And I'll say this much in defense of the history guy, because you guys have seen him on Ken Heron show. You guys know
Yeah.
who the history guy is. He told the story and he called this person a she because currently it is a she, you know. He
Yeah.
says, I'm trying to give history as I see it, as I'm not here to argue that stuff. That's
Right.
for another channel, but it's not for mine. And he got a lot of flack, and I think that was wrong of people. But there's another guy. He's Irish, and he told the story, and he does it in a comical way, and he told the whole story. But yeah, and this person was actually this transgender person was actually fairly pretty, uh, but then after they showed her mugshot after she was 10 years in prison, because they didn't really hunt for her either, but they finally found her like 15, 20 years later, of all places, living in Dale, Texas.
Well, there
Now,
you go.
she kept going back to Texas. Now, this was a transgender person
Mm.
in the 70s, would rather live in Texas than California.
Yep. Well, that's
Makes you
where all
wonder.
your exes live.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. Actually, I don't know where my exes live. Actually, one of them lives in Colorado, so that's probably why I'll never go back to Colorado, too.
Well, Lloyd, we did a little over an hour, and
You're
I'm
losing your
still
voice.
trying to keep myself from coughing my head off. So
Okay.
I think it's about time that we shut this bad boy down. I want to thank all you folks in the chat for at least suffering through us, watching. And hopefully you got some information that you won't hear from your over the airwaves news or cable.
Right.
So you're going to
Yeah.
get the straight poop on this station. So
If Jerry Coverly is still in the chat, I need you to reach out to me because I need to get in touch with you. I'm having problems with binding my uh, drone, my Free Sky XM Plus receiver with my Tyrannus X9 Lite, and I'm so I know that he's somebody who knows about this as much as anybody.
Yep.
So I need you to reach out if you're still in the chat. If you've already left, maybe you'll catch us a little later. So I need some help.
all right.
Or
Well,
anybody else.
thanks, folks, for coming to the show. I think we got
Absolutely.
up to 6 people,
That's pretty good.
which is not
Pretty
too
good.
bad.
No.
So, any closing words, Lloyd?
I'm going to say what I always say: be kind, treat each other better than you would treat yourselves. Remember, everybody matters. Everybody does. Even guys like that. Or dummies matter too. And, God bless, God help the United States,
Take care, everybody, and we'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.